I am Tobias, and we are back with another Fireside chat. I think this is number 5 now. I did not make the second one last month because I got kind of busy at the end of the month. I screwed up pretty much. But either way, we are doing one today, and today's topic, we're going to talk about indie games. Joining me today is Vatlaaw.
And good day to you, and thank you for including me and including me with your audience.
So today we're going to be going over indie games, which by definition, at least what Google says the definition is a video game developed by an individual or small team, typically without the funding or support of a large game publisher or studio. And indie games have kind of made major rounds recently. We've had some of the biggest ones. Minecraft, of course, got the movie. We had, let's see here, Undertale, of course. It was a very big indie game when that came out, as well as its current prequel, I'm not really sure what to call Deltarune. And Among Us is considered an indie game as well, because it was developed by a small studio. Hollow Knight and Hades, a lot of games that I've been enjoying, like the Forever Winter is technically considered an indie game, and Vatlaaw has some examples.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd necessarily add to it, but two of the more recent additions. Helldivers had funding through a third party, but not to the extent of a AAA game. Saying that, they still had a ridiculous amount for the everyday person to have in the form of like $20 million handed to them and said, go roll a 20, to which they rolled a 20, at least until meddling got involved. And then one that's sort of a...
Helldivers was an indie game in that sense.
I don't know if we'd consider the second because they got that amount of money, but more of a true-to-form one that is currently in a nice legal battle there would be Palworld.
Oh, yeah.
That truly did come from nothing. It came from an idea and some dedication.
And I'd say it worked really well, to the point where Nintendo was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's certainly agree to that, and that's to the continued success of them, because even though they've had the lawsuit, they've had to change games, they are change the game per the lawsuit, they are still just pumping out content.
And that's a major blow for any studio when you think about it. It's like, if you can keep going while under a lawsuit and everyone still supports you saying this lawsuit is pretty much bullshit to begin with.
Yeah.
Because I think the most recent one was having mountable animals in the games, which has been a thing since like the SNES.
Phantom and all the homies game covered this a little bit, so we got a little bit from them if y'all want to check them out. But staying here, a lot of the issues stem from the fact that the lawsuit is in Japan. Now I'm American, you're American.
Yep.
I'm
the copyright
guessing
law in Japan is not my forte.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're coming out to a mostly American audience here. I don't know. You could be big in Central America for all I know. But unfamiliar, yes, with the copyright laws. And the most exposure I've had to Japanese copyright laws has been from this said lawsuit, which a lot of them don't make sense to me. But in a way, I can also kind of understand where they're coming from and the basis for said law.
Yeah, their whole thing doesn't really make much sense to me. It's like, how do you copyright a mechanic that has been in pretty much every fantasy game ever made? It's like, if you copyright mounts, wouldn't that mean that like games like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy wouldn't be able to use them at all again?
I'm not sure they copyrighted that portion of it per se. The last I heard on it was like a mount when you capture said creature and could immediately use said creature as a mount. It was like that portion of it that they copyrighted, which seems relatively pedantic to me, but I'm also not a copyright lawyer in Japan, so I guess I really can't speak too much to the matter to it.
Yeah, and I'm not a lawyer in America. I don't really know either way. But it's just one of the things you got to run the risk of with indie titles. It's like sometimes bigger companies might notice and go, hey, wait a minute, something's wrong here.
Yeah, that is generally a practice of it. Like, stating to that, like, there are modders in World of Warcraft that were hired on to the... Let's go with the old joke of what Blizzard was, the small indie company back when they were releasing Warcraft 1 and 2, to the global mammoth that they are now.
The mammoth that apparently only has 3 legs because one got knocked out by lawsuits.
I want to say it's one of those... we're talking about indie games. I love Blizzard from the indie days, but a lot of the trouble that Blizzard has now has been brought on by Blizzard.
Yeah, they kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, look at like games like Minecraft, which have been out. How long has Minecraft been out?
I never really played of it. I've been aware of it. If I had to venture a guess, I'd say at least 15 years. That puts it into the 2010 time frame.
You are 1 year over. It was 14 years.
Oh!
May 17th, 2009. 14 years yesterday.
2009?
Yeah. Minecraft was first publicly available in 2009, and then the full release known as Java Edition came out in 2011.
So if you want to go 2009, that's 16 years. It's 2025 now, brother. But if you're going by the Java to 2011, then yes, the 14 years.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, look how long an indie game's lifespan can go. Like, if it's a good enough indie game, it doesn't need gigantic support. It can run essentially on its own.
Hell, and it gave Notch fuck you money. Because if he doesn't like what you're saying, he's definitely going to refer to it as fuck you. And I hope you can bleep that later on. Although it's been more than it's been more than 5 minutes. Yeah, it's been more than 5.
Like another game that started out as an indie game was Tripwire Studios, the makers of Killing Floor and Red Orchestra, as well as the Chivalry games, which were released a while back, Chivalry 1 and 2. So Tripwire is now on Killing Floor 3, and I'm still looking forward to seeing how that comes out. They pushed it back a while because there were some major issues when they were doing testing. One that I've streamed twice now was the Forever Winter by Fundog Studios. They're considered an indie studio developer.
Yeah, not overly familiar with these games in particular. Like, pulled up Tripwire, and Killing Floor apparently will be releasing here with Killing Floor 3 in July.
Yeah, that's the timeline now.
So
it was this month. They pushed it back.
Not an entirely uncommon occurrence, especially among indie games.
I mean, they've been around since 2008. Was, I think, the original Killing Floor mod for Unreal Tournament 2004.
Yeah. I was going to say, just looking at the previews here, lots of Quake vibes here. Granted, there is a little more horror elements to it, but just is. Like how you're killing
stuff. It's a horror shooter. Yeah. It's a wave-based horror shooter. And a lot
should be overly familiar with that. Yeah, I was going to say, should be familiar with that, with what you played last night and streamed.
Yeah, I was playing some Darktide last night.
Maybe not Warhammer's version of it. Oh, actually, I'm not familiar with Darktide. I am familiar a bit with Vermintide. Slight differences.
Slight difference, but the same general feel. They're both web-based co-op games. Or class-based
I made the
co-op games.
Made the mistake of Vermintide of playing alone with no contact with anyone. Immediately, like in the first match, got taken hostage and murdered outside the zone.
Sounds about right for everything.
Something. Those games ain't easy. And especially if you can't communicate with anyone.
Oh, definitely. And I'm looking at my Steam library, and a lot of the games in here, including some of the more adult ones, are all essentially indie developers. They don't have, like, huge studio backing.
I was saying, basically... There are a few adult AAA games out there. I know there are a few because there's a budget behind them, and you see them pop up, and it's like, wow, why's that adult game $40?
Yeah.
But the vast, overwhelming majority, which I don't think we could really show or talk about that in depth on YouTube, yes, I think all of them immediately qualify as indie games.
A couple of the ones I have are pixel-based ones. So they look and play like older games.
So are we declaring Custer's Revenge here? Which I'm not sure if that's the oldest adult game per se. We're declaring that one an indie game.
Well, technically, all games were indie games in the beginning. I mean, technically, Doom was considered an indie game at the very start.
I don't think Nintendo would really be too eager to claim that one.
Well, too late. They already have, technically. Everybody already knows where it came from and where it was. And at this point, I'm pretty sure most people are on the same side as fuck Nintendo.
There's a lot... It's a love-hate relationship. It's like, oh, hey, you've done Mario Kart, a game which a lot of people have loved and got joy out of. And you're suing your direct competition instead of innovating off of their innovations. That's a one in each column. One win, one loss. and
I will say the
stacking
Switch does
W's
have
and stacking L's.
I will say the
Stacking
Switch does
W's
have
and stacking L's.
I will say the Switch has quite a indie title library as well.
Yeah. I
Which
don't
I
know
will
if you
say is good.
necessarily want to segue this quick to it, but both the indie games I got, I actually found and played each other played each other. Both of them, I guess, would be more accurate, for the first time due to them being on Game Pass.
Oh, so they were on Microsoft.
Yes, they were on Xbox, which neither one are there currently. But the first time I actually played them, and I have actually bought at least one of them, I plan to describe on multiple consoles, and the other one on Steam as well as a console there, from my experience from Game Pass with them. So, I mean, granted, it's one of those. If this audience crosses over with the Geeks and Gamers audience, which I imagine there's a little bit with, if you listen to them talk about Game Pass, great Game Pass, brilliant for introducing yourself to indie games and, well, a lot of AAA games now. But from like a business perspective, it's like, how do you make this stuff work? And it's one of those, I do not understand the sausage principle per se with Game Pass. I do not know how they make money off that. But great for indie games. I'll give them that.
Yeah, definitely got to agree there. The other great thing about indie games is sometimes they do get developed into bigger companies and they improve on what that company does. Like my personal favorite one is DICE. From when EA released Battlefield 1942, way long ago, DICE made a mod for that called Desert Storm, which modernized Battlefield 1942's models and weapons and made it into a modern military shooter as opposed to a World War II shooter. And instead of going, hey, wait a minute, we're going to sue them, EA went ahead and went, you know what? We're going to hire you to make our next game. And that next game was Battlefield 2. Which was humongous.
Yep, I do remember the Battlefields and their sequels, and they made it's not apples to apples with Call of Duty, which I think unfortunately is what it's become, and heck, it's even becoming like apples to like Fortnite, Call of Duty, and Battlefield now. Yeah. Battlefield originally was apples to oranges, and I think it was brilliant there because they were pushing each other and competing. But it was competition on two different fields. Yes, they're both first person shooters. Yes, they're both squad/team based.
But one was more campaign based, and the other was more multiplayer based. Which was, if you wanted a great campaign, you play Call of Duty. If you want great multiplayer, you play Battlefield. And that lasted probably up until Battlefield 3. Which I think had the first actual campaign.
Yeah, and then it's like where it notably fell off, I think, was 5.
Yeah, I liked 5's graphics, and the general gameplay was fun. I mean, I still am amazed. I took down a Japanese Zero with an anti-naval gun, because I was just shooting at it every time it strafed the base.
As has been told to me before, it's only crazy if it doesn't work. You only look foolish if it doesn't work.
If it looks stupid but it works, it's not stupid.
It's innovative then.
And I know Battlefield 1 is still going, because a lot of people are still playing that on PlayStation 4 and PC. I don't know about the Xbox crowd.
I don't necessarily want to go back to Nintendo here, but your example was a bit too perfect there of when it was innovative, they brought them in instead of suing them.
Yeah.
Now there's cease and desist because on the original Switch, you have Breath of the Wild. It was 2016-ish? I don't want to go exact here because I don't know off the top of my head. So just right around that 10 years now. I think it was March of 2016. I'm not certain on this. There are mods out there now that will up it to 4K, 60 FPS, and rather than incorporating these mods, Nintendo has sued and cease and desisted upon them.
Oh, yeah. They did that for a bunch of the ones that came out for its sequel, too. Tears of the Kingdom had a bunch of mods that did the same thing. And they used to have an entire category on Nexus.
Yeah, once again, though, it's our problem with like using the legal system to prevent mods versus spawning an entire new franchise from incorporating said mods. Like on the independent scene, which is what DICE did.
Yeah. DICE proved themselves, and EA said, you know what? We're just going to take you on. We're going to bring you in and and we're going to give you the money, and you're going to make us a new game.
And it worked out for several years.
It's
probably made some people pretty rich and probably still employing a good number of people.
Oh yeah, it's definitely still employing a good number of people, even though I will say 2020 or 2042 still has mixed opinions, but I'm still enjoying it. And honestly, I can't wait to see what they do for Battlefield 6.
Yeah, that is another issue here. I'll be like, you can enjoy what you enjoy, just don't like try to preach quality at me.
Yeah.
If you find it fun, find it fun. More power to you. But if you're telling me it's the greatest thing in the world, I'm going to look at you side-eyed, and then I'm probably going to start laughing or throwing some profanity out and challenging that opinion. If you can back it up, then back it up, though.
I will back up Battlefield by saying that I've been playing it since 1942 with my dad, pretty much every Friday since Battlefield 1942.
Since 1942?
Since the game.
Well, you can see where the obvious joke in there is, dang, Tobias, how old are you? You're playing 1942 and 1942.
I'm an immortal time traveler. I went to the past to introduce gaming to soldiers.
It was kind of dangerous to be doing that in 1942.
Just a little bit. You know, you gotta dodge bullets at the same time you're showing the soldiers your Game Boy.
To which I'm sure that was just a brilliant, like... It wouldn't have been like the 1600s where they would have killed you for being a heretic or burned you at the stake and just been looking very confused, and you would have ended up with the Captain America line from the Avengers. Yes, I believe it runs on some form of electricity.
It was like a comic is like, I'm going to go back in time and impress everybody with my intelligence. It's like, wait, how did this electricity work? I don't know.
We are getting to that point, though, to where something really old breaks and they got to call somebody out of retirement because they're the only one who still knows how it works.
Yeah, which I think is actually a really good intro for a lot of indie games, too, is a lot of the mechanics of indie games come from older games. Because we've got the whole category now of like boomer shooters and stuff like that that are basically taking all their inspiration from games like Quake, Doom, Blood, the classic games that made studios what they were.
I'll do a Civilization quote here that's, I can't remember who it's attributed to, but don't try to reinvent the wheel. Realign it.
Exactly.
Yep. Doom, Quake, Unreal Tournament, which Unreal Tournament turned into just the Unreal Engine, to which they've sold it and made bank off of. Which it's not
they still
saying
haven't made a new Unreal Tournament, and I will say, fuck Fortnite.
Yep.
I want Unreal Tournament.
I
want my Unreal game back. Damn it! Just don't make Unreal 2 again.
Oh, good lord!
Give us the original Unreal. Make it like a full remake, like they've done for Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and release that, and I guarantee you will make a shit ton of money.
But yes, they successfully invented the wheel with even Wolfenstein, Quake, all those old shooters. They invented the wheel. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have the wheel. We
need to improve upon the
make it ride better. Exactly. Don't reinvent it. Just realign it, polish it up, make it a bit smoother, make the road a bit more comfortable to ride on. But don't reinvent the wheel. The wheel's there. The wheel is good. We can use the wheel. Make everything around the wheel better.
It's like, we have this one component, but we need to make everything else awesome as well. And a lot of the indie games are doing that a lot better than most major studio games are nowadays.
You actually brought up EA a little earlier with DICE, which it's great that they get funding. It takes that away, but it does put strings on them.
Agreed. And one of the biggest ones that has kind of been screwed over by a major corporation was Monolith. And I see that we now have Booming Bob here.
Hello.
Yes, welcome, Ebola. We are mid-conversation, kind of streaming consciousness of thoughts.
I heard Monolith mentioned, so...
Yeah, Monolith got destroyed by WB after WB bought them. During the production of apparently a Wonder Woman game that was supposed to use the same mechanics as the Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor games.
Which goes to prove a Wonder Woman game should be a layup, especially for the studio responsible for the Arkham series, which are amazing games. But this is what happens when you put strings on people. You inhibit their ability to make games.
Is that the Lord of the Rings games you're talking about? The Shadow...
Yeah, the ones with Talion.
Yeah, I played one of them.
Fun
played
tier,
World
fun YouTuber Tier of Grace has made his career off of with doing
Yeah, I
his
played one
Shadow of
of
War
them.
stuff.
I forgot which one, but it was fine. I mean, the mechanics were good.
Yeah, they had the
Yeah.
whole Nemesis mechanics, which they copyrighted,
Yeah.
and now nobody else can do that awesome thing.
Oh, the Nemesis system was brilliant from those games.
And now Monolith is gone, and WB holds the copyright to a game that is, I don't even know how old anymore now.
And at best, if we live long enough, and that's a big if, we will eventually see it on the public domain, but that's going to be a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other great thing about indie games is they can be constantly updated, like even when they're put out, and it doesn't feel like, oh, we're just fixing little things, we're not really changing anything. You can add in entirely new things for free. Like, they don't have to be a required DLC kind of thing.
I will even add to it because, shoot, I'm trying to remember the game now. Oh, that remembered it. One of the most, well, I guess it has to be considered an indie game, but as big as it is now, I don't think it really qualifies. But you look at Dota. It started as a StarCraft mod, or Warcraft mod, one or the other. I can't remember. But one of those Blizzard.
Warcraft mod. Warcraft 3.
But yeah, completely just its own mod, became its own game, became its own franchise, and has since become a cash cow.
And it's a lot less toxic than the opposite.
It's one of the top 4 to 3 esports in Korea now.
And that says a lot coming from an indie start.
Yeah. It's just, it's that big that it's one of the top 3 games in Asia and Korea, especially with the other games that are over there that's successful.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the other ones are, because I know one is StarCraft, but I can't remember what the one between the two is.
It's usually League of Legends, StarCraft, and Dota.
Okay, I figured Dota and League of Legends would kind of like swap in and out.
Yeah, League of Legends would probably be one out. StarCraft or League of Legends is probably one.
But yeah, it comes to the point to where, though, started out as a mod, indie game, heavily developed, but as the court case, and we eventually found out, which I don't think there was actual ruling, I think it was just a settlement, how much of that IP was Blizzard's because it was made with an independent mod, and it comes to me like, well, none of it probably should have been Blizzard, because Craftsman's not going to claim responsibility if I build something with their tools. Least I would hope not. Or maybe Florida Electric Power wants to come and claim copyright because they were providing me the light to work in my garage to build something. And it comes down to, I think it was Dota paid out a huge settlement to Blizzard to be their own thing. And everyone's saying, oh, well, Blizzard missed out on this. Blizzard gave them the tools. I'll give them that.
Blizzard then tried to make their own version.
Hey, to be fair, I will defend Heroes of the Storm. I enjoyed that one. Was it as good as Dota? Probably not. But I'll defend that. I had fun when I played Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, I had fun playing it as well. I liked that they added more maps than just one. Yeah. That's its main thing over Dota and League of Legends is there are more than one map.
Yeah, basically from the more than one map, every different map was basically a different game mode, which I found incredibly fun. The problem there was the timing with it.
Yeah, they kind of came out of Mobile Wars.
Mobile War was already over by the time they introduced their warrior component to it, and it was like that sole survivor from the Japanese Air Force that was living on that island out in the Pacific by himself 20 years after World War II, but still thinking he was fighting it.
Yeah, I remember that guy. The Japanese government had to come and tell him that the war was over. Because he didn't believe anybody that told him.
Well, to be fair, if I was fighting a war and some random civilians came up and told me that, I probably wouldn't believe it either for like the first couple years. But saying that after like 4 or 5 years of no orders, I would probably like think that, yeah, this is probably over.
Yeah, just some random person telling you it's like it could be a trap for the opposition.
Yeah, but you'd also think that after enough time and enough people keep telling you the exact same thing, you'd kind of start thinking, maybe it actually is.
Especially if they're not trying to imprison him or anything. If they're just like treating him like, oh, that's our crazy neighbor Bob. He thinks World War II is still happening, so just kind of be careful around him.
Yeah, don't mention the Americans to him.
But it's one of those... I know this is indie games, but where exactly would you draw the line between Dota being part of Blizzard's intellectual property versus it not being any at all?
My line would be drawn at assets. If you make your own assets, then it's yours. If you use somebody else's assets, then it's not yours. Then it's just an asset flip.
So would that mobile version of League of Legends, the Chinese one, would that be assets since it uses other characters from video games?
That one's a little... I haven't seen that one. I didn't even know there was a version of that.
Well, it's the Japanese are basically kind of... I don't want to get too political here, but they ignore copyright law like it's a Chinese pastime. No offense, China, but y'all kind of do it, and we can all see it.
Yeah, it just kind of happens. One of the games I've been playing a couple times on stream and that I've been enjoying is Wild Assault, which is by Combat Cat, which is a Chinese studio. But I will say that nothing in it feels like an asset flip. Yeah. It feels like they took the ideas of like Battlefield, kind of compressed them down to a smaller size, put furries in it, and said, hey, this is something we decided to make. It doesn't feel like they took assets from somebody else, which unfortunately a lot of indie games still do. They are considered an asset flip.
Yeah, I could see your point on the asset flips because you're not entitled to someone else's work there per se, but like I wouldn't mind like if they used the assets as like placeholders or something for like, oh, well, we're going to put our own art. Yeah, we're going to put our own art in later, but we need to get this portion done while the artists are still working. I wouldn't mind that. But inevitably, with a big enough game, you're going to end up with someone else's assets in there. One, properly credit them.
Yeah.
Don't bullshit there. Even if like it's accidental. Okay, well, let's edit the credits and put them in there. Even if we're removing it, we'll put them as a special thanks or whatever the case may be.
Exactly. But do something to credit the actual artists.
Yeah, the other part is where it was just a mod from StarCraft for a while. The copyright system is clear to where you can't copyright an idea. It has to be something tangible in order to copyright. So where they built Dota, they did build it in StarCraft 2, but it was his idea and his information and would not have otherwise been made.
You mean Warcraft
3? To an extent. Warcraft 3, yeah.
Yeah, I think...
damn you,
there
Blizzard!
There was another one that started out as a StarCraft mod, but I can't remember what it was. It was another RTS that's fairly big, and it started out as originally trying to be a StarCraft mod, and they decided to just make their own thing.
There is probably a fair few of those. I mean, heck, with... What is Gary's mod in the, like, top 10 for, like, Steam played time? Year to year?
Yeah.
So it is
one of those.
That
uses the Steam engine can be put into Gary's mod.
Yeah. Well, it is like that, and it's one of those. Well, it developed for a mod, but how much of it is actually Gary's mod versus people who are branching out ideas upon Gary's mod?
So, Ebola, do you have any favorite indie games?
I'm trying to think. I guess Sea of Stars is one, which is kind of like a mix of Golden Sun and Final Fantasy, if you know what Golden Sun is.
I think
very
it's
JRPG, and also another game from Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean Golden Sun was made by Camelot Studios, which is a very old publisher. But that one I played and I fairly enjoyed.
I'm pulling up the link for it now.
And another one I was playing a little bit was Atlas, which is by, let me check the store page, Kaisoft. And of course, another bunch of indie games are made by a studio called New Blood, and a lot of theirs are boomer shooters that use older mechanics and kind of modernize them a little bit, but keep that retro style. You got games like Dusk, Medieval, and Fallen Aces is one they're working on now, which is like a detective noir boomer shooter. It's always kind of funny to me how many of these games come out, and at the same time it's like, you're keeping the mechanics, but at the same time you are improving stuff to make things better. It's that it's the thing Vadi said earlier, that we're not reinventing the wheel, we're realigning the wheel. Just going off the title, searching for indie in the Steam store, there are 97,000 titles that are considered indie titles.
I just did the same search. I searched indie in the search bar and came up with 105,000. Then I looked down by tag, and 97,000 were tagged that way. So I guess the other 6,000 and change, they're somehow related to the word indie, but not indie games.
They might have indie in the title or in the tags.
Yeah. Oh no, the tags were 97,000. Like the search came up with, let's see, what's the exact number? 104,912 results match your search.
Yeah, and I have 4,912 titles have been excluded based on your preferences.
Oddly enough, I have that exact amount excluded as well, and I didn't think I had anything excluded, like from my searches on Steam. I thought I had it completely unfiltered.
Didn't like.
I don't think I've come across 4,912 games at all on Steam. How could I not like that many? That's a lot of games.
See, I have 435 total games on Steam.
Yeah, my library, I don't even think it's that big. I think I'm in the mid 200s, honestly. But I guarantee not all of those are limited. I mean, or indie. I mean, hell, if you look at my most played titles, it's the Civilization games by far. Mostly because those matches take forever.
That's saying a short one. And yeah, I kind of had the same thing where the top 3 games in mine are Doom the Dark Ages, Dark Tide, and Battlefield 2042.
Yeah,
and then right under that is Hunt and Helldivers.
As much as I'd like to play different games, there are still the game comfort foods I go back to. Like Civ 6 right now, I've played it most recently. I know Civ 7's out. Haven't even bothered buying it. I will probably a year in once it goes on sale. Current playtime for Civilization 6, 1,137 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it's Civ. If you play it, it takes that long. But you look at like 5, and I've got 451. Beyond Earth, and I have about 200 there. But then again, it's one of those, I'll still put them down and still try to play like the games I have linked over here, which we'll get into either eventually or relatively soon, Chorus and Crosscode, which Crosscode I've played on Steam, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox. So I don't know how many hours I can actually combine and say that I have played on that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you'd get those games where it's like, I have it on multiple systems for multiple reasons. And it's like, okay, I don't know what the total hours is anymore.
Yeah, and saying that...
It also depends if, like, the progression crosses over between platforms.
Yeah, like what they did with Destiny 2, when they moved that to PC, and if you had a character on console, it was automatically moved over with all the information.
Yeah, you know, but if it doesn't have, like, cross progression, then I guess you just have to individually add them together.
Yeah. There's, in Crosscode, the example I listed, all 3 single-player games, none of them cross-system.
Yeah, I had to realize the hard way earlier today that I forgot Battlefront 2 doesn't have, since it wasn't crossplay, it didn't have cross progression.
Yeah, I don't think Battlefield 2042 has it either. Even though it has cross-play, I don't think it has cross-progression.
Yeah, I guess EA just being EA.
Well, Helldivers 2 also doesn't. So I think it's just server storage.
You're able to. It's cross-platform, but it's not cross-progression.
Yeah, so like I can play with people on PS4 or Xbox, but if I try to put my game on either of those, I won't have any of my progress.
Yeah.
Outside of like using their own launcher, I'm not certain they would be able to do it like that. Just because I'm trying to think from a solutions-oriented perspective of, okay, how could we get cross-platform out of these? And everything, I'm coming up with answers. The problem is the answers would cost money and would not make you that much money in return.
Well,
because if it was cross
storage space, wouldn't it? Like if you had the server space for that kind of storage.
That is part of it. The other part to where I came into it is like, rather than buying it on both, you would buy it once and it would just work on both. And you would basically be logging into the game as opposed to like installing it. And you would install it on multiple things, but still just logging in. Similar like if you played like an MMO on one PC versus logging in on a different one. Like you might be doing that, but you would only be one game license there. Something to that extent. And
I think
that's kind of backward. Like they would want to sell you multiple licenses on devices. Like, oh, we're going to sell it on PC and on Xbox and on PlayStation and make you buy it, and it's not going to perform like that for that. Also, that ends up getting you like more play hours on it too. Unfortunately, it's bad for consumer, good for business.
And going back to indie titles, a lot of them really do, I think, work better on PC just because you can do a lot more with PC hardware. Because like if you make something like specifically on the Switch or on the PlayStation, I don't think you're going to be able to transfer it as well over to the PC. Like you need some kind of porting for it, I think. And I don't know if a lot of indie developers would have that kind of money or time.
Yeah.
That and how often does porting go wrong to where it's just like, okay, we're literally just porting it, but I guess it depends on the port. Porting PC to console presents its own set of problems, and porting console to PC to where it's not used to keyboard input also presents its problems.
Yeah, just look at when Monolith tried to put Fear on the Xbox from the PC. It was like the controller doesn't have enough buttons to play Fear.
And you used to have like, well, granted they still make them like the little keyboard extensions for like controllers where the buttons are so small you're fat fingering everything when you try to type on them.
Well, I mean, the
If you
PlayStation
even
1 had
have
a
them.
mouse, and it worked.
I'm saying if you actually had to type something out in the little like attachable
that's always
keyboard
been a
they
pain.
put on controller. Yeah.
Yeah, my Xbox 360 had one of those.
Like I've seen them in stores, but I haven't actually like seen anyone buy one. Granted, if you're not working there, the chances are radically diminished of seeing someone buy one.
Yeah.
At GameStop?
I think
Like-
they do some at Best Buy, too.
I'm gonna pull up Amazon and see what they got for it to see if like we could see certified customer reviews for them to see how many people have bought them.
Like, that's another one, is multiplayer indie games. Stuff like Among Us and stuff like that. I mean, when you think about the complications of trying to make a game purely multiplayer, like Among Us is
That's
probably
harder.
simpler compared to a lot of
Well,
bigger stuff, but at the same time,
it
it's that
was-
same concept.
Wasn't Among Us set up as a mobile mostly game?
I think it was a browser game at first, and then I think they made like an official release thing.
Like it reminded me of I'm not sure if you heard it. Like it's of the old browser game Town of Salem.
Yes, I do remember that.
I think that used to be free at first, and then something happened. I think hacks or something happened where you had to pay for it afterwards.
Yeah, and then there's been a bunch of games that came out based on that concept.
Yeah.
So that's the case of indie games sponsoring or spawning even more indie games.
It's especially when you got like a party game to where it's not exactly a party game, but it's Among Us to where you get a group of friends and it's like, okay, which one of our friends is the best liar here?
Or which one's the worst.
Oh yeah, that too.
It literally just made the old party game of the real life game and made it into a video game.
Yeah, another one like that is Jackbox, I recall. I don't know if that was an indie title or not when that first started out.
I don't know, but
Because I know
that
it had,
has-
you buy like one copy of it, and then everyone else could log in on like their phone and play that
Yeah.
way.
on your phone, yeah, as long as one person owns it, everyone can play it.
Yeah, and I like that kind of title because it's a lot easier to have that kind of thing, especially if you're playing online with people for just like some quick fun.
Yeah.
And then only one person has to front the money.
Yeah, it's also a good like stream game.
Yeah, definitely.
I was gonna say you actually reminded me of Crab Game, which is actually free on Steam.
Oh, the
So where
Dark Souls crab game?
No, I don't know if it's Dark Souls Crab Game, but it's
Well,
just
it's-
called Crab Game, and it's developed by Danny and then published by Danny.
Oh, because there's a Game Pass game called Crab's Forgotten Treasure or something, and it's a
Oh yeah,
Soul
that's
type
the
game.
Souls-like. Okay,
Yeah,
that
no-
is a
no-
different one because the crab game
Oh.
Ebola is talking about is an actual crab. It's like a hermit crab kind
Yeah.
of thing, but with Dark Souls
Well,
mechanics.
Well, this was the you know the old concept where you got crabs in a bucket and they won't let other crabs escape. They'll pull them back down and keep them all in the bucket, so you never really have to have a lid on it. That kind of concept into Crab Game, because it's like you get a lobby, an off version of Fall Guys. You get 30 or 40 people and it eliminates till it's down to one. Like Squid Game actually came out after Crab Game, and there are a lot of similarities. So I don't know if like the developer knew of the Korean show before it hit Netflix, but it was
Because-
way before the English audience saw it.
Squid Game was like was playing like the guy had a script already and everything for like 10 years, but just didn't have anyone to make it.
All right. Well, the release date on this is 2021 for the crab game I linked. But yeah, it's a bunch of like random maps where you play like similar to Squid Games. They might be kid games, and then there's like maps where like you're standing on rocks and it's lava and the rocks are starting to break.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, because all those were like some kid games we recognize, and some obviously we didn't.
Yeah. Like one, there would be like two sets of rocks. You would start on one island and you would need to navigate across the rocks. And when you would jump on it, it would either be a solid rock or it would instantly break and you would die. So the crab game portion of it is you want to wait till the very end to try to get people to go before you so they break the rocks that aren't rocks so you can advance. But everyone's against each other in this aspect too. Like, well, if no one goes, we all die anyway.
It's like Murder House and Jackbox. Like, one person
Yeah.
takes the money, one person takes the sword, one person takes the shield, or those are the three options. But if nobody picks the money, you all lose. But whoever
Yeah.
picks the money also doesn't have any defense or attack.
Similar concept. There's one map where you go around beating each other with bats, and once you get hit 5 times, you die.
So I
But
think,
as for to get my last point on this, to show the player base, released in 2021, so about 5 years ago now,
just about, yeah.
all reviews, very positive. So this is a 91% positive rating, 152,000 reviews.
Wow.
Yeah. Granted, the game is also free to play, so it's not like there's a financial investment involved either,
Oh,
too.
yeah, definitely.
So it's one of those you pick it up and play. Like the VTuber LumiTuber, the Finnish wolf that plays on Twitch, she plays with her chat occasionally.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So to finish this off, I'm going to ask, I mean, indie games are clearly here to stay. No matter what happens, there's always going to be indie developers and titles coming out. But what makes an indie game truly have staying power? Like, what is it about indie games that makes them so much better than AAA games that they last so much longer in just the cultural zeitgeist, I guess?
This is going to be a lot of dead air to edit out. Because sitting here thinking about this.
Yeah, that's a hard question.
I guess I'll
It's
go
good
first.
question.
It's the ability. I think part of it is the ability to just go out and make something you want to without having to have this gigantic financial backing behind you. Like, if I want to go out and make a furry game, I can make a furry game. That doesn't mean it's going to be good, but at the same time, it means that I'm inspired to make something and put it out there.
I guess it also means you're not restricted by a company, because some companies, like, you want to make a game and it's like you have to have this required amount or a certain budget, or you just have to have some certain thing in the game.
Or you have to put in like a political agenda or something.
Well, not really. I wouldn't say political specifically, but just you have a requirement you have to meet and put in the game. Or indie game, you aren't really restricted to what you can put and not put in the game.
It's not being cut apart by studio interference.
Yeah,
more freedom.
Yeah, whether the interference be bad or good, you're bound by no one, and you can literally do whatever you want in your game that you're making.
Yeah, I think that's part of what gives these games such staying power, is just the concept of having the freedom to make whatever you want. Like, if it's good or bad, that's up to the audience when you release it. But just the concept of being able to go out and say, hey, I want to make a game, and making that game. And I think that's really at the heart of indie gaming.
I would put one more aspect on it now that I've actually had a chance to let you two talk, so I could actually sit there and think to myself. A lot of these indie projects are passion projects. They believe in what they're doing. They love what they're doing, and you can tell they're pouring a lot of themselves and their free time into it. They're not constrained by it. It's not a job. They have probably a job they don't like, and this is what they come to do to basically de-stress. A lot of that time ends up being quality because they're sitting there, what would I find fun? What could I do? And they have the freedom that you two mentioned to basically set their own set of standards and their own set of rules to go along with it.
I think those are the main things of like why indie gaming is such a beloved thing at this point, and why there are so many small studios and single developers out there, especially as compared to the quality of AAA games now.
Yeah.
Which is like you rarely have a we rarely have a game that's, considered, oh, it's going to be an amazing game off the bat.
Yeah, the only ones you can guess are going to be amazing if they come from like in the East or maybe Eastern Europe.
Well, I mean, Doom's doing pretty well, and that's an American company, I think. I think it is
That's
still
true,
American.
but yeah, I think so. But
it also has brand name power behind it. I mean, it's got the name Doom, so it has a legacy behind it. Most indie games don't.
Yeah, related to what we're going here as well. Like, I was trying to find out what the people at Power World not Power World, but Pocket Pair were doing before they released Power World. And what popped up for me, Pocket Pair was founded in 2015. Now, Power World was released January of 2024. So between that 9 years, I'm wondering what they were doing, per se, to kind of further elaborate on it.
Is there any games that pop up before Power World for Pocket Pair?
Yeah, apparently Craftopia and Overdungeon, to which I have heard of neither.
Craftopia I have heard of.
But yeah, what I was going to say is, as far as indie designer maker, there are programs out there, so it's...
Yeah, you've got
you might work in
and RPG Maker and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I'm saying to where the layman can come home from working like as a store associate, some branch manager somewhere at a job they're really not into, beyond making the company slightly better maybe and making a sustainable wage and life for themselves, and they can come home and pour something into an indie game to where it's more fulfilling than that job will ever be. And that's part of where that investment comes in, to where they're pouring their literal soul into a game. And sometimes that shows through immediately. Or the opposite of that, like with Among Us, they come up with a really good idea.
Yeah, they come up with something. It may look simple, but the idea underneath it is able to kind of put itself out there and say, hey, come play this, because you're going to have fun playing it.
It's come play this. We're going to give you a vehicle here. Now, what you do with the vehicle is completely up to you, but you and your friends, as much as you're having fun, we're going to enhance that ability to have fun.
Yeah.
Shoot, looking at it like that, Among Us is essentially just Clue, electronic Clue. That was the idea instead of the board game.
With or without Tim Curry?
Oh, is he still alive? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I was getting him confused with Alan Rickman, who I know is gone. I was like, Tim Curry's still around too. I could only imagine the demand if Tim Curry did a Twitch stream where he played Among Us with like 12 random people, and they advertised it.
That'd be amazing.
But yeah, games with a lot of soul to them. Indie games, not restricted by basically money that's putting strings on them saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, you need to make it to this parameters, or really great ideas that are unrestricted in freedom.
Yeah,
or I guess
we're obviously not like saying go and make an asset flip game or go make a game that has really terrible everything and just put it out there and say, hey, I made this, it's my first game, I'm selling it for like $10. Like itch.io has a kind of varied selection when you look up a lot of their stuff, but it's the concept of let's just get our game out there and let's have fun. Like if you put all your passion, you put a lot of love into a game, it's going to come through in the game, and indie games are really good for that. And with that, I will say I think we did a pretty good job today going over it.
We meandered a bit, but I think we did okay.
Yeah.
Thank you both for joining me today. I will be editing this, and I'll probably get it up either Monday or Tuesday. I'm not certain. I will get it up, though. It will be a fairly quick turnaround, as usual. And next month, I have no idea what it'll be about. But hopefully, I will talk to all of you guys later. And once again, I'm Tobias.
Booming Bob.
And I have no idea if Vatlaw's mic is working right now or not. But from all of us, thank you for checking in, checking out the podcast again. Do us all a favor, put down whatever indie game you guys like the best. Just let us know what you guys like, what kind of indie games you want to see more of, what kind of game you like to play. So I guess that would be the call to action for this. But thank you guys for joining me, and we will talk to you guys later.